Call the December 8th work session to order. If you join me for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizen comments? Let's go right into the Lake Marion Greenway Trail update. Turn over to Joe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So quick update for you tonight on the Lake Marion Greenway Trail. I know you're aware of this project. It's one I've referenced a number of times through the quarterly reports, but we're going to do a little bit more detail today. Just covering a little bit of background on that project. Again, this has been in development since 2013, when the city initially did a feasibility study on this trail segment. The total project, when complete, will be approximately 20 miles long and we connect Burnsville, Savage, Credit River Township, Lakeville, Farmington, and then eventually to Working Area Park. Back in 2019, the city and the county did an additional feasibility study to plan out the next segments within Lakeville, splitting the project ultimately into 3 different phases. And the phase that we're working on right now runs from downtown Lakeville into Riverfront Park. So that's phase 1 for us.
Well, that's a lot of miles.
About 4.5. Yep. So the Ritter Farm, and we have this broken out into kind of different segments here, and I can zoom in some too if that helps, and that's a little small there. But starting with Ritter Farm, because that is the area where I think we receive the most questions. And it is the only portion of the trail that is entirely new. The rest of the trail is utilizing existing trail segments, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But in Ritter Farm Park, the upper section there, those black squares, I think you can see here. So this would be the existing gravel parking lot at Ritter Farm Park. That is ultimately where a new trailhead is planned. We're proposing as part of the project, as a bid alternate to pave a portion of that area, going up to the ELC and paving the upper lot, and then going to the kind of the top of the knoll of the hill there. This green trail segment is an existing trail that we're proposing to pave. It was the best option for us to do the least amount of impact to the park, kind of utilizing existing infrastructure. And if you know where the entrance road to the South 40 archery range is, at that point, we would actually split off and we would be putting a new trail segment through that ultimately pops out over by the dog park. So that section would have an overlook, kind of looking over towards Lake Marion, and that would be really the only truly new section of trail. We would then also be realigning slightly the snowmobile trail, and we've got a little bit of work that also has to happen in conjunction with the snow trackers to realign part of our cross-country ski trails. But that's the Ritter Farm section of the project. And I can pop back to these at any point as we go through the 2. The trailhead that I referenced, and actually this is maybe a better view of that for you. So this is what's being proposed for inside Ritter Farm Park. But it's got the gravel parking lot turned into a paved lot. We would have a new shelter and restroom combo as we're doing these projects with Dakota County. Part of that is to have year-round accessible restrooms at these trailheads. So $400,000 of that shelter and restrooms that we paid for by the county, and I'll talk a little bit about the financial split here as well. We're also proposing some improvements to the equestrian parking lot, increasing the quality of that, but still leaving that as aggregate. And then, as I said, we'd be proposing as a bid alternate to pave the ELC parking lot as well. The trailhead, though, and it's a larger view of that, is a shelter structure. Zoom down here a little bit. So this is a rendering of it. So shelter structure, storage room, and then again, year-round restrooms, so heated. That's also coming then with the bike plaza, kind of trailhead aspects of it. So it'll have regional mapping, bike fixing station, benches, and bike loops. Uh, We're also proposing as part of the project, improvements at the Henrik Road crossing. So this is going from Casperson Park across the bridge into Ritter Farm Park. As part of that, we're working with WSP and the city engineers to finalize either a combination of pedestrian hybrid beacon and refuge and some other traffic control measures. But ultimately, a widening of the road would be happening here. You can see where the cutout is for pedestrian access here. Let's zoom in on that. Along with that, there would be improvements to the bridge itself. So we're working with MnDOT on that, strictly fencing. So 8-foot tall fences for pedestrian safety. And then after you cross the bridge, the trail then again would cut out and be grade separated along the rest of the system. So I'll go to, so the trail after we go through from Ritter, we'll cross Kenrick. It'll cut through Casperson Park on existing trails, and actually those have already been improved, so we won't be touching those. The next section that we hit would be Juno Trail segment. The Juno Trail was also improved 4 or 5 years ago. It's already at the right width. All of that is correct. But what we will be doing with Juno Trail is actually working on speed mitigation. So we brought the ordinance to council regarding speed limits on our trail system. So that's been set system-wide for our multi-use trails at 15 miles per hour. But that new ordinance also gave us the ability to further reduce that speed. So we're looking at either a 5 or a 10-mile speed along the Juno Trail segment. It is a little bit of a unique area because we have property owners that own land on both sides of the trail. So to access their docks, they've got to be able to cross. So we do get quite a few complaints about speed in those sections. So we're working with the county and the engineers on ways to reduce that. 5 to 10.
Really cool.
Pretty slow. Yep. There are some really hidden corners though along that Juno Trail section. So this isn't the whole length of it, but definitely a segment of it. So
I haven't been on it yet. Does it go straight, then has a corner? I mean, can you make the corners turn?
It's
Straight away.
yeah.
A little faster.
So we are looking at doing some curve markings where we might further reduce, and there's a handful of really tight corners on Juno Trail. And I do have another rendering of it where I can actually zoom and show you that if you'd like to see it further. We did, and I would say through the open houses that we've held, this was one of the major comments we got from the residents along the Juno Trail segment.
So they don't mind 10 miles an hour?
They prefer slower and better, is really what the push was. Yeah. And part of that was to get pavement markings as opposed to signs. So, and that's where we're looking at doing some things that we have not done in other parts of the system. So going then from Juno Trail segment, we'll be following the trail down 205th Street, going past Antlers Park. From Antlers, we'll be heading down existing trails to Marion Field Park. And there are segments of those trails that have already been replaced. There are segments of those trails that need to widen. Some of them just need to be overlaid. So we're really looking at this design. We are trying to utilize existing infrastructure as much as possible. As part of the project, we're also intending on having 2 trail spurs into Lakeville Elementary. So that's intended to help with pedestrian access for overflow parking. We'll be looking at some additional signage for overflow parking handlers. So all of that will get done as part of this project as well. But at the Dodd intersection, we actually have one segment of our trail that we will not be building next year. That's because of the Dodd road project that's scheduled for 2027, at which point a pedestrian tunnel is being planned. So just to the west of the playground, we'll be stopping the project in 26, and then just to the east of Dodd Boulevard, we'll be stopping there as well. So it's that one little section that'll be left until following year.
Is this indicating that this tunnel is going down underneath the road for a second?
No, the tunnel, no, this alignment isn't a fair representation. In fact, the tunnel's being designed by a different engineering firm. And it's a little bit farther south than what's represented here in the latest designs that I've seen, but no, it'll be right this west.
So it looks like it's under the road.
It really does, yep. Yep. No, it'll be, the trail itself will run along the east side of Dodd, and then it'll cut through, going east west. So the project then, for this year, we'll head into downtown Lakeville. And, the existing trail pops out just north of where the Royal Milk property is. We'll actually be taking that down to, 209th Street, that's right, the number of that road. And for this year, the trail would actually end up with it's a gateway is what we're calling it, or what the county calls it. It's an entrance point to the trail system where there are no restrooms. So trailhead restrooms, gateway, no restrooms. So for this year, the project would ultimately stop here. And then in 2027, there's plans in place to extend it ultimately to Holyoke Avenue as part of the city project, not tied to part of the project with the county.
What would the infrastructure to put in restrooms are in it? There are two divergent opinions on the LBA. There's some there that would, if you want to bring the tax back to have a bathroom here, or like a business bathroom. And then there's the other half that don't want to spend any money at all. And so I've heard requests for payments, so. $500,000, $1 million, like what?
I mean, half is probably fair, looking at what we're spending at Ritter. I guess the only thing I would contend with this spot is whether that is the right location. Simply because it's hidden from the street and, you know, tied to this project. I don't know that it makes sense tied to this project if your intention is to serve downtown, but that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I think their intent was that you could try to do the two birds with one stone at the trailhead. They could refer people there.
Well, so for this year, though, the intention, or for 26, the intention is to stop just before what's the parking lot. So, and I'll skip down here to the gateway just to kind of get a sense of what that's going to look like. So the parking lot right off Howland Avenue is pictured here, just the corner of it. But ultimately, it's another bike fix-it station, directional signage, benches, new drinking fountain downtown, trash cans. But kind of a nice seating area there just off of the trail segment.
Or I guess, you know, not maybe dissimilar to what we do in some of the parks, potentially adding in a couple of porta potties that are seated.
Definitely possible, yeah. So I'm gonna look down here. So just to talk about schedule then, the project has been moving along through designs here since this past summer when we held our first open house. The second open house at the 60% design phase was held in October. We're moving to 90% design plans now, and the intention is to complete those, and we need to do some work at Ritter Farm Park with some tree removals and some tree trimming here over the winter, just to make sure we miss the oak wilt season. But ultimately, construction for the project would start either late spring in the segment from downtown to Dodd, or everything would start after July 1st. And I mentioned that date because of the two grants that we received. Keep in mind, we received, or are pending receiving, an LCCMR grant for $1.79 million. With that grant, we cannot start construction on the trail from Dodd into Ritter Farm Park until after July 1st.
Oh.
And the DNR grant that we're also that we were receiving for $250,000, that's also on a similar time frame. So that one trail segment that runs from Dodd into downtown is covered 85% county, 15% city, and that section could start here in spring. So it's just a matter of whether or not we want to try to get that done for Panaprog, or if we want to just do all of it after Panaprog. So we're still going to work through those details. So
for that segment, riding my bike down that one, that one seems wide enough. I mean, what improvements are being made?
Yeah, so county standard for regional green rail trails are 10 foot wide. There's also a different turning radius, so about 100-foot radius, so we do that where we can. And a lot of our trail segments do not currently meet that. City trails are currently 8 foot wide, and our turning radius is 40 to 50, really. So there are some segments of the trails where we can't do that wider turning radius just because of the non-available land space. So
Is there something to be done for the crossing of the tracks? Small tires.
yep, so there are improvements that are being planned for the tracks. That's a whole other conversation we're working on with rail line. So
The only comment that I've gotten, and a concern about an increase in traffic. But the trails themselves are closer to new residential homes. Any estimate on traffic counts?
yeah, I would say it's hard to provide an estimate, I think, on the traffic at all. I will say from what we've received as comments, both through the open forums and open-ended surveys that we've had online, as well as the open house, is more so the impact to the natural environment of the river, which is something that we've really been cognizant of. It's part of the reason when there were a couple of other trail alignments we could have selected, but it would have put the paved trail through essentially the center of the park. So we've really been trying to hold close to the existing road alignment, just to make sure that we're not disturbing major portions of the park. So I guess I would share that. My other comment is, once this is fully complete, I would assume that there's going to be traffic there. Bikes are still going to be held to pathways. So if you're accustomed to walking or biking or hiking, not biking, if you're accustomed to walking or hiking, you shouldn't see massive increases on the rest of the trails. Bikers are going to stay.
Good job on the LCMR reviewing our stuff. That's appreciate that kudos. So now I emailed you, but good job. All right, we'll now move into our short-term rental discussion. Tina or Katie, you're both, you guys are, all right.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, so this evening, we are bringing back, follow-up from the work session that we had back in July. We talked about what the existing ordinance covers us or how it covers us for short-term rentals in terms of the administrative permits. There's a brief summary from the report as to what our current ordinance says. Katie has taken the lead in researching what activities in the metropolitan area and put this draft together. She's got some bullets of what the ordinance does and then some key questions as well. So I'm going to give an opportunity to just do an overview of what the draft says.
So just kind of reviewing the comments that were made during the slide. The request that I heard from the council during the discussion, working on the lodging tax, having responsible for being able to rent the whole house, have a clear occupancy amount, because currently it's unclear. Separate code section, so it's easy to find and follow, and then duration of stay. So the things that we have addressed, and just read through the list. We have set up the draft right now to have an annual short-term rental permit. Most of the communities either did a year renewal or a 2 year. So we went with a year, just because these can have a higher impact as far as renting of rooms or the entire home would be allowed in this. We do include the collection of lodging tax. To keep it similar to the rental registration program, which is our long-term program, we are requiring the owner or local management to be Minnesota-based. We are restricting the number of short-term rentals operated by the same homeowner to 2 properties. Right now, it's listed as 1 homestead and 1 non-homestead. That was to try to prevent people buying up a bunch of properties and not living in them and maintaining that housing stock for people, their families live here. We also did short-term rental, we just defined it as 31 days or less, because that's the most a month can be. Occupancy limited to 2 adults per bedroom, plus their children. Parking, we did not put a number on the number of vehicles that can be parked, but we did restrict it to off-street parking. And that's around. Properties, garage stalls do count, or be service sites, but they would all have to be on the property and not on the street. And then what it doesn't do currently, and we can discuss that, is restrict the number of short-term rentals in the city limits. There are some communities, it's a really small amount that actually limit the number total. Those are smaller cities, and then did not limit the location, so currently the rental registration program doesn't limit the location of those rental properties. We follow suit, kept it consistent and do it that way. And then it does not define long-term rental in this, but we would add a definition just to make it consistent across the entire code. For our rental registration program. And then the topics of consideration is how many short-term rental units can one person or entity operate? They mentioned in our current draft, we're ready to do. So we're kind of looking for a direction from the council about their thoughts or preferences around that. And then if you have thoughts or preferences around renewal, either annual, longer, one-time application, and of course, any other comments based on what we covered.
You know, we're planning on collecting a permit fee.
Yes, yeah, so currently it's in the street department, which is $100. So this would be simpler. We would make a separate short-term rental application just so that we could make sure that these requirements people understood what was included in the city code, but that would be $100 a year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd have to figure out what the exact like staff costs it is to process all this. It just seemed like maybe the renewal would be less than, you know, if we haven't had to do anything. What's the cost of what you pay for,
Sure.
if there's no major changes like that?
So like first and 100 and then.
What are you gonna do on the renewal? Are you still doing that process each year, or what are you doing on the renewal?
So currently it's an administrative permit and there's no. It's not licensed permit, so we have to inspection. Like for long-term rental registration, that's actually just registration. We send them a certificate, so we don't do background checks, we don't do inspection, it's just a registration. That's the property owner, information you need to sort of back to. And so this. That.
I can see it's spending staff time doing compliance though, like checking.
Yeah.
Sites is sure the job, so.
I saw that where they have to be compliance with all the exterior and everything.
Yeah.
And you know, I just heard you say that that doesn't mean we do a pre-permit inspection. But what we would do is if the property is deteriorating, we'd be able to do some enforcement. I'm in favor of an annual renewal, for the main reason that if you do develop a problem property, we have a little more leverage. Here's,
Do other cities do the max?
They don't, or I didn't get that language from any other, but currently the code, actually the intent of it is that it's your owner occupied home. And you're actually physically there, like renting a room.
Right.
So that was trying to stay true to a Lakeville resident interested in doing a short-term rental property, instead of like someone from a neighboring community that is buying a multiple here. But that's flexible. We just,
Yeah, I don't really, have, you know.
I'm still trying to figure out who's doing it.
well, yes.
You know, cause I got a neighbor across the street that's I think she's renting a room. I've never asked her, but there's different people staying there for a long period of time, but I don't know that we know. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And how many, I mean, in a town of 70,000 people, how do we know? Or 20,000 houses? Who do we know that is renting out a room?
So for long-term rentals, we did a lot of communication initially, and do periodically include it in city communications. But part of that, beyond the people that pay attention to that information, is having neighbors to report it. And so if we do get someone that contacts the city and says, I think that my neighbor is renting their house, we do look into it through our code enforcement process. And similarly, when this program is up and the code is adopted, we would work with Airbnb year ago to communicate with the properties that are using our platforms. I spoke with someone from Airbnb and he was very accommodating so that they could help us communicate with those people that are currently renting their homes. And then if we do have issues, he's a liaison, we can communicate with them. They can actually revoke these people's opportunity to list their property either for a limited amount of time or permanently, and then they just go communicate with the VRBO in the same way. So we do have some extra resources because you have to use those platforms in order to, well, you don't have to, but a lot of people do use those platforms to rent their properties. So it's a good way to reach them.
Do they collect the lodging tax then?
Yeah, so for Airbnb, there's a checkbox that they can collect the lodging tax separately, so it keeps that separate from what they're asking to rent their property, and then they can just, it puts it into a pool that they can turn around and then it's the same.
Is that automatic? I mean, does the state require that automatic? Would we have? to
They
put
don't
that in the-
require it.
Okay, so we actually are the ones that.
Some cities already are collecting it, but not all cities.
That go to the chamber.
Just like
Let's- I think it's kind of interesting is that the complaints I've seen from folks about rental is more on the long-term rental side of it. So it's because long-term rentals, the owner occupied or occupant isn't maintaining it, or the person who owns it isn't coming back enough. With short-term rentals, you have a desire to keep it up because you need to rent it out if you're. So there should be some incentive to keep your property more up to date than, you know. So I think there's still a long-term question out there that somebody put that in there as something I think that's, but for this, I mean, I like the people piece, I like the relationship with those platforms. Those are the same. I don't know, unless you're putting on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist still. But that's your home. And I do appreciate the folks have that.
I generally, I reaches that balance. Homeowners, freedom to rent out their house if they want to, while also keeping the guardrails in place to make sure. With that, our neighboring communities, any sense what they do on this, we talked about that back.
Yeah,
Because a couple of them don't do it at all.
it varies so much. So I can, I'll hit the highlights from the short-term rental policies that were shared during the July meeting. So for example, they do an annual license, that's $62. They did not specify the number of guests. They did talk about parking, rent the entire home, and they collect lodging tax. It must be homestead. Rosemount is licensed, it's biannual, it's $50. Their occupancy is 2 times the number of bedrooms rented plus 1. They don't allow on-street parking.
Specifically.
Yes. The amount of home is all, lodging tax was not mentioned, and then not owner occupied, owner must reside within it. Savage is a license that's annual, it's $25. Their occupancy is 2 adults per bedroom plus an additional 2 adults. Children don't come towards the limit. 2 vehicles plus 1 for each available garage stall. Bedrooms only, and property owner must remain on site during rentals. They need background checks, and all licenses are issued.
Oh, that's interesting.
Apple Valley is,
Oh.
I was gonna say, Apple Valley has banned them, but they're being sued.
Yes.
Okay, I remember, is that a recent?
Can you find that people are thinking about doing this during the time that they're in Florida? From November to April or whatever. Want to have somebody at their house. Like, for somebody's, but, is that the, I mean, who are we thinking of playing?
I looked up some of the stats from Airbnb, and Lakeville is not a hotspot for short-term rentals. When the Super Bowl was here, things popped up all over the place. But I mean, there were very few statistics, so I don't think we're up there, at least at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm searching right now, there's not a single one listed on VRBO.
I would, if the Dakota County or the World Fair Expo thing comes through,
Oh,
then
yeah.
I would imagine all the cities around us are probably gonna have a desire to, or there will be a market for that, because there's gonna be a lot of people traveling internationally to here.
That example where they're gone for multiple months at a time, that would be considered a long term, so they could register their own. And if they had one person stay. For more than 30
For
days.
this time,
Yeah.
I think we're ahead of the curve for the demand. So I think that's a good thing.
I mean, we know we do have a couple, because the one guy complained that, I mean, that's what kind of kicked this off, right? But we had,
But in reality, he was a long-term rental.
right,
Right.
He was with Reed.
But the ordinance is a little dated. It really doesn't say much. So this puts, I think as Councilman Little said, a good balance of kind of what you're all expecting, what we're seeing, our market cities creates a distinctive ordinance. It's not going to be buried in the residential section anymore. So like the winter registration, it'll be in the city code portion. It'll be very easy to follow. We'll create some website tools for it, like we did rental registration for implementation.
And a couple of things that weren't in my bullet points, but I will mention is at the end, there is a process about suspension and revocation. So we do have a 3 offense process set up right now before they would get notified that they're planning to revoke their permits, and then they have an appeal process to go through. And then something else we included is it's required to be passenger vehicles. So I think there's business related vehicles that are parking at a rental and
Is there a minimum age of the renter?
it's not included.
So basically anyone that's an adult.
Adult, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, what are the platforms? I think the platforms may require 21.
Oh, that's-
and they might.
Well, I can't think of anybody. Would you really want to own multiple houses to do short-term rentals?
Yeah, if you bought 4 houses on Lake Marion, for sure.
Yeah.
Rent them in the summer. Just like,
Here's a tiny home accessory.
I stayed in one in Phoenix, different market, but it was very clearly an investment property that somebody just bought and they're renting out. They weren't living there at all.
Those aren't too-
okay.
They rent them for a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know. You said you don't have anything there in there about the number of units somebody can.
Two.
Oh, two.
We've included, yeah, the two.
At least one homestead.
At least one homestead.
I like that somebody else does that, that we're gonna.
So to me, though, so I think we're all good with this one, but I'm still wondering what more we can do on a long-term conversation.
I'll put it in January. Brief conversation.
I don't know if it needs to be that quick. I don't know where we're at with agenda topics for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the retreat, we're just kind of identifying topics. We don't go into deep dive on them, but I do have it on there as I think, as if the council wants to explore it next year.
Thanks, guys. I think you're still have the floor now for
Yes,
Baja
yeah.
local affordable housing
Yeah.
aid update.
As you know, in 2023 legislature passed the housing bill, created a new metropolitan regional sales tax. Lakeville received a distribution in 2024 of $229,464. Lakeville this year for the 2025 allocation is $635,000. Cities can use this for aid for emergency rental assistance, cost of operating emergency facilities, financial support for nonprofit housing providers, projects for the construction, acquisition, rehabilitation, demolition, removal of existing structures, construction financing, permanent financing, interest rate reduction, and gap financing. We have to utilize funds within 3 years, or commit within 3 years, utilize within 4. In beginning this year, we did have to do some reporting to the state. Julie has helped coordinate that along with the CDA. So as you recall, last year for our 2024 program, we did work with and collaborate with Dakota County to administer all of our funds. And so those funds were divided between the enhanced single family home improvement loan, which goes up to 115% AMI, and the radon mitigation program. They've had a lot of good success in utilizing the funds. I think the majority of cities within Dakota County opted to provide either their full allocation or a large portion of their allocation. So they received a lot of dollars and have been able to commit 60% of those dollars already with their staff. And so they'd like to build on that. And they submitted us a letter requesting a commitment again for the 2025 allocation of up to $250,000. With that, we would have remaining $385,458 to commit to a qualifying project. One of the ideas that staff is suggesting is continuing working with the CDA. We've approached them on purchasing a portion of the remaining Fisher property outside what the fire station needs will be for a new senior apartment building. And they're very interested in. We've hired an engineer and working closely with Zach, particularly on grading, lowest floor elevation, so we can figure out grading, utilities, and so forth. So while we don't have a PA with them yet, we do know there's a lot of interest. One of the resources that we should use and allocate towards these dollars would be for construction costs related to that project. And in particular, even utility extensions that would benefit the site as well as their projects. So that's probably our number one thing that we are suggesting. However, I did provide a state statute that lists all the other specific areas that we could use these funds for. So then the big questions tonight is, are you supportive of the request of the CDA to continue that program? Serve our households for rehab and radon mitigation. Then are you interested in suggestion for construction support for the CDA project, or do you have other ideas?
So I want to throw just another idea out there for the conversation. 360 communities is building this house to environmental shelter. When I threw out the idea of cities, all of the Dakota cities using some law funds, turns out when they wrote the bill, they did not include capital for domestic violence or emergency shelters but you could pay for ongoing yearly operations. Since that conversation, I talked to Senator Fort, who wrote the bill. She said it was not our intention to exclude emergency shelter. And so they're having their legal staff, the legislature, see if that's how it's interpreted, because right now CDA and the state are interpreting it a little bit differently. But if it's not the case, they said they want to fix it next legislative session so that the cities in Dakota County could write a one-time check to help support the capital campaign for the shelter. So I throw that out there as part of the conversation.
I didn't realize it excluded, but it's thinking down the same lines of some of those dollars.
And there was some conversation at 360 once they heard about that, because they do get dollars from the private individuals every year that go for operating, that they can then reallocate the capital and then take operating. But that obviously is very complicated. The challenge for them, and I didn't realize this, they're not pursuing bonding money, because the way it works is they're a non-government entity. The county would technically own the facility or CDA. And so down the road, a new county CDA wanted to repurpose it to not be a domestic violence shelter. And so they don't want to put up all this work to build the shelter, and then the county in 10 years says, no, it's going to be a homeless shelter or something.
Did have a question. Do we know any more about the household served for Golden Forks for Lakeville? Specific, right?
Yes.
And that is 200 and some thousand to those who are homeless.
No, they've obligated, so the table shows the dollar split for the LAHA funds, what's been obligated to date and what's been expended to date. So they're working with families on the obligation column, but those funds have not been issued yet. So right now, they've served 4 households, but that number will increase as they get those funds that are obligated out the door.
So the obligated is no number.
Yeah. Yes. And Mayor, if I could interject too on your suggestion, we don't necessarily have to tonight decide
Yeah.
where the 385 goes. But the biggest question, because the CDA is looking for a commitment, there's a mid-February date in here, that by the end of February, they would like, the commitment. If we are interested in continuing that program, what our dollar might be, that we would commit to that. I would bring then a resolution of support for that in early January. So that's really the decision we need to make tonight. We can hold on to the dollars in-house. And if either legislative attorney opinion changes for this or law changes, and that is an action, we can come back and have that conversation.
It could also be a timing issue. So the site grading and work on the Fisher property will happen in 26. I don't know if Lewis House is going to break ground in 26 or 27.
Yeah, it's probably, they need to know what we're going to commit, and then they figure it as part of the.
Right. So, I mean, it could be that you do the county contribution for 26, as well as the assistance to the CDA project in Lakeville in 26. And then we're going to have a 27 allocation that we could put toward 360 communities.
Yeah, I would
That's a
only,
good point, because we're annually going to have this, and from,
Annually for how long? I forgot.
for,
well, until the law changes,
Yeah.
And it goes up every.
that's the expectation.
so.
It's based on, it's sales tax.
I agree. I would just want to figure out, because long-term, if we do move forward with the senior project, I would assume we're going to allocate almost every dollar to that project every year. So I'm saying if we.
Well, it would only be for construction.
Oh, we're not going to pay for the bond on it?
No, this would just be to help with the site prep.
And they would do all the rest of it?
And they would do the rest. This would just help offset some of their
They would.
construction. Yeah, it's still.
Okay, I thought we were going to contribute to some of the bonds.
Well, that wasn't our impression. That wasn't our, unless we had continued money moving forward.
Well, yeah, that's okay.
There's costs that are associated with the build construction of the fire station that
Yep, that I
we would
understand.
use. The east-west, north-south road to be constructed, the stormwater basin needs to be constructed, and the overall site needs to be graded.
Yeah,
Those are the three things that this money could go towards.
right,
And then CDA would do their own deal
okay.
with the construction of
That's,
it.
I just thought we were gonna partner and say, okay, we're gonna use our dollars to pay the bonds on that.
Well, I'm sure they'd be fine with that, but
I just didn't.
we haven't offered that. I think they have
Okay,
funding for
Do we
that.
know how much of the 385, which you just talked about, Alan, that would?
We'd use all of that, then some.
That would, yeah, that would cover everything.
so what I was gonna say on the
We would
roads,
use that. That was two cents.
Yeah, there's more than 300,000. If there's more than $4,000 of, $400,000 of road and grading out there for sure.
so what my challenge, if we were on board with it, was if we could get the legislature to say capital money, I was gonna send a letter to every mayor in the county and say, this is what we're putting up, 100,000 or 150, whatever it is, we'd like every city to match it. That would be my ask of our those cities. Because I think the idea is to raise, from the cities, $1 million bucks. I think they're 4 million short. 5 million short.
Yeah, they're at 50%. We heard at, Dan and I said it with them at lunch last week. They hit
Okay.
the 50% mark, which is a big mark for them.
Yeah.
That cuts loose their engineers and they've hired a project manager.
And that's without really doing a public thing.
Right.
It's more of a-
We can come back. I mean, I think we're hearing clear that you're okay with the county ask for the home
Yep.
rehab part of it. We'll come back with a resolution on that. And we'll monitor the legislature kind of through the first part of the year and see, and bring back that discussion.
Yeah. When I got the email from their legislative council today, they basically just said, whoever wrote this didn't assume this is it. Because of the way it's structured, there was some previous language of old laws in there, and they just forgot to include it.
Did we, break down between HL rehab and radon? The amounts there, did we determine that or did
We
they?
did. Is
That
that something?
radon number looks like they're not using that.
It was a percentage.
Okay,
Are you interested in still breaking down or just letting them figure out the pots? I think they would prefer being able to
flexibility, yeah.
kind of have the flexibility to figure out the pot, the split.
Well, and I'm okay with them determining that, but I would like to know more about how these dollars are. So do they have, if they have a report of some kind of what increases were made, is there an increase in the value of this home built after that process?
Yeah, I think that. The radon, that what the number, is that two systems or one, like there are 3,200?
Okay, so I think we just keep going, we're going, and then figure out what the long-term Fisher property is.
Thank you.
All right, everybody's favorite topic, Alan, trash.
That by your family thing.
That's right.
Great transition.
Just enjoy it.
It's time for the waste hauler convo. Yeah, we have 2 trash cans.
Prior to 2019, City of Lakeville had just kind of a everyday hauler going to the neighborhoods. They had no limit to locations or timing or days. We were receiving lots of complaints from residents regarding the speed of trucks, the number of trucks in the neighborhoods, trash cans being out all the time. So the council at that time looked at a couple different options of what could we do different to reduce the number of trucks on the roads to the neighborhoods. So the 2 things that they looked at was going down to a single hauler license, and which there was no support in that from the public or from council. And the other option was what we ended up implementing, which was a hybrid kind of dividing the city into east-west sides and having haulers go down to 3 days a week. And that also reduced a lot of trucks. I mean, it actually reduced a lot of the complaints that we received. So currently, that's the system we have right now. We don't get a lot of complaints about a lot of trucks in the neighborhoods. We get more complaints now about lost missed pickups and no pickups and stuff like that, which is a service level issue with the individual contractors. So I think council just wanted us to bring this back and kind of see if there was any discussion or need to change anything, or if there's any direction you want to give staff on moving forward, something different on this, or just keep it what we have right now.
Yeah, I think the frustration that I hear is people like, oh, I can't believe there's 3 trucks per company in between yard waste, recycling and regular waste.
It'll be organic by
And then there's
2030.
the organic by 30. So that's what I hear about, you know, and Alan and I met with this company 2 weeks ago. And they are piloting something in California, it was very expensive, but it's single can for everything. They built a $50 million, no, more than that. It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a big facility that basically sorts everything, trash, recycling, organics. So you just have one can, one truck, and it's full. So,
You gotta
and
make
it's part of,
money.
it's part of California's zero waste, whatever thing. But it was fascinating to see that. I didn't know that it existed. I mean, I know they can sort like glass.
So you would say the number of complaints about trucks on the roads is lower now than it was before the 2019 change?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we still get them, but it's better than what it was. Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I lost my, oh, the 2-day-a-week window for haulers. How essential is that? Because I don't have the problem in my current neighborhood, my last neighborhood, though, we had cans out for 2 days. And was there opposition? I mean, why did we pick a 2-day window rather than setting 1 day a week?
For the hauler flexibility.
Yeah, we had put together a kind of a sounding board of the haulers, and we brought them in as part of when we created this new ordinance. And that was a compromise of, they thought that they could still do all the service on those 3 days. So, on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Wednesday and Tuesday, I think what it is.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wednesday, and Thursday.
There you go. Yeah, so the east side is on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and the west side is on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Yeah, you should see no trucks Friday. and Monday.
Yeah.
Unless it's a holiday.
Unless apartments or commercial.
And right now we have 5 Class A haulers, which is the residential service haulers. We have 2 Class B. And we're in the renewal process right now. We've got 4 confirmed for Class A. There's a 5th that we're trying to get a hold of that we think the response from. So there may be one open license. I think once we get a hold of them, they're gonna wanna renew, but we may have 1 open license.
And we had historically, pre-2019, had, I wouldn't say unlimited, but we had more.
I think that's
And over the
7.
years, as there's been consolidation and selling, we kind of closed out and said that 5 was going to be our max.
Yeah.
So I don't even know, is that an ordinance or is that just kind of a?
That's an ordinance.
Yeah.
And you could go down again. I mean, if we only get 4, you could go down again if you wanted.
No,
What else? This is-
the competition. Prices are getting pretty steep,
Yeah, I mean, I would put it out.
so you need competition. Keep the prices at a reasonable level.
Yeah,
If we condense it, we're causing the prices to increase.
I do think though, I would be surprised, like my hauler, I might be the only one on my road that uses it because they're a really good deal. I can see them in the market, because at some point,
Sure,
you know, if they can't get,
that's their choice. I
Sure,
don't want
yeah.
to force them into it.
no, I get it. I'm just saying, I could see them exiting the market.
Or you won't get this.
Yeah, right.
They're either gonna raise prices or get up. And so I agree with what Michelle's saying. It's like, I want as much competition as possible. And I think when you start dividing the city like this, it just takes the burden and spreads it out, which is what people want. Or trash people in the street every day.
And the other thing we're having in some places, because we had no ordinance, you know, like Burnsville has zones, right? And so they would just, the company that had that zone on that day would then come in with it. So there was like no recognition, like we were just the catch because everybody else had some sort of,
And I will say that's probably what most cities do. Most cities, it's your neighborhood one day.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the hauler. I think we're the only one I know of that allows it on 2 days.
so we were trying to be generous to the haulers at the same time, so we recognize that we were kind of free for all.
I think Apple Valley and Burnsville both have
Apple Mill.
Yeah, they all have districts.
Yeah.
What I'm saying though is most districts are your Friday.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You're not a Wednesday or a Thursday.
So it
I mean-
seems to me, if you were to take it down to one day, you would still have the west side and the east side?
No, we'd have to relook at the map again and
Because
figure
there's
that
no
out.
way you can
No.
cover it in there.
No, we did that when we went through this exercise.
Yeah.
We'd have to bring that back out again.
I mean, I'd be
I
willing to
guess
look at it.
just the 2 days gives them planning.
And,
They figure it out with one. They've done it everywhere else.
yeah,
I mean, I would be open to it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the options there too, because I mean, I think that's initially what, I think I might embrace this, and the two, when we switched in our old neighborhood, and all of a sudden we were in 2 days of trash cans out. Although I don't know how widespread that is.
Yeah, we were the only one.
We were the only two with, I mean, so it's like we had 2 days of managing trash cans, but
So what you're looking for your neighborhood is, you
One
want
day.
just one day a week where all the cans are. Or no matter,
Who's-
if we have 5
yeah.
guys,
So you have 15 trucks coming down here that day rather than,
10.
10 one day and 5 the next.
You know what's trash on 2 different days? Do you see trucks on different days?
I'd like to know how common it is, because it's not that way.
Maybe it's us.
I do. Because our neighbor, and we have 3 different trash haulers in our cul-de-sac. So we'll see, but it's Monday and, or Tuesday and Wednesday are 2 of our pickup. Well, it's all our pickup, so we see 2 days, we see 3 different companies.
I see all
I did
5
have-
on one day.
One day.
Yeah, I have one, no, we've got 2 days. Neighbor just switched to a different number.
Also wish there was a way we could get the haulers to negotiate for, I have one constituent who's got a cul-de-sac and she tried to get everybody on the same company, and they have, of course, one.
Well, this might, zones may force them to do that, be more aggressive with their sales tactics, because they might say, we want to keep our count number up, we need to get. So I'd be willing to talk about it more. I don't know how much staff time it takes to look at. I mean, what do? You just take political precincts and you lump them together, and that's how you zone it out?
We try to group it by number of households, so that they're kind of roughly equal and contiguous.
You throw it in a co-pilot, or you gotta actually do
We,
we didn't
I mean-
have Copilot back then.
it? No, you
GIS,
don't.
I mean, GIS could throw it out really fast.
So would we be talking about just adding an extra day and an extra zone, so 3 zones, 3 days?
Depends. I mean, I think we'd have to look and see how big the zones are and also talk to the haulers and see what they could accommodate.
The current days and zones were part of working with the haulers, because we really had 2 main haulers in Lakeville, and those were the ones that had the majority of the customers, so they kind of guided the whole process a little bit, and the others just went along with it because they were,
But now, there's not local ownership on that. The big driver that in Arlington was 6 years ago, so.
but it was
Their prices have gone way up.
but it was a combination of, okay, we've got a lot of stuff in Burnsville and Apple Valley on these days, and so we kind of matched up as best we could with them to make it as painless as possible for them, so that they were also doing their neighboring cities the same days. The days coincided with the business they were doing in the other cities. They make it more efficient for the
Do all
routes.
5 of them serve the whole city? Because I thought it one.
No,
Okay.
I mean, they can.
Buckingham, I think, only does the west.
they can, but I think because of their customer base, they try to keep it within.
In distance to their,
They don't want to go one here and one over here. I mean, they might, but I don't think they.
Maybe it goes all, they'll go to any house.
But we're still talking, purely residential here, right?
Right.
yeah.
Not like we have Christina Huddleston across the street and that, I can't remember. what they have.
That's a Class B commercial.
Yeah, so.
But there's only 2 licenses on.
Well, they all have it.
But they could.
Oh,
We
two
don't,
more over the-
we don't limit the class Bs.
No, I mean,
Yes.
if you're a class A, do you also, you can,
You could be a class.
or the B companies are different than the 5? That's what I'm trying to say, it's all,
There's one that's also a Class A.
okay,
One that's Class A and Class B. The rest are,
and one is just a class B.
yeah, I've got it here. Hold on a second.
Sure.
Yeah, so the five are class A and there's two class Bs and one of the class As is also class B.
What are the two class Bs?
Technically, there's three class Bs, that is what you're saying, one that was first.
So Allied, which is Republic, is a class A. Aspen is a class B. Buckingham is a class A. Dix is a class A. Nitty is a class A. Suburban Waste is a class B. And Waste Management class A. So I guess there isn't one. I thought one of them doubled up.
Oh, it's Republic doesn't have any.
Republic and it's Republic / Allied Waste is a class A.
Okay.
So there's seven licenses, 5 class A, 2 class Bs.
It can't be right. There's gotta be commercial people that are having to pick up their trash.
I think I'd be used as allied. Or Republic, I mean.
Not that, I mean, they have an
They-
A license,
they could
I'm
be,
not
yeah.
offended by it.
Well, we can bring back, I mean, I'm hearing from right now, you're fine with the 2 zone, 3 days basically, but you want us to come back with just some more research on it?
Yeah, if we could go to 1 day, we
Sure.
Whichever one mine is, we'll see if that thing even snowstorms. It's every night that I have to put my garbage.
Yeah. Okay. Legislative priorities, Alan, it's really yours.
Actually, Taylor's gonna take this.
Nice.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so included in the agenda packet was the red line draft of the 2026 legislative priorities. I'll kind of share just some of the highlights that we added. State regulation of adult use cannabis, they removed the local government cannabis aid fund. So we're asking that any legislation moving forward, keep local government in mind as they're the ones implementing the cannabis laws.
On page 5.
That would, yeah, I don't have it up in front of me. And so, yeah, we're looking just to at least maintain the level of control we have or possibly gain a little more increase in control at the local level. At the federal level with the cannabis, we've asked that they strike the provision with the federal ban that was included to reopen the government and go back to restore the authority to produce any hemp-derived products as previously allowed. Moving on, the e-bikes we included in there, we would like to see at the state level statutes that promote e-bike safety, licenses, age restriction of 15, protective headgear, and then proper equipment for the e-bikes as deemed necessary. We have tax forfeited property we included in there. As we know, kind of just to alleviate what happened recently. So this was kind of promote more cooperation with cities and the local jurisdictions where these properties are, and kind of avoid city taxpayers from absorbing all the costs.
Just remember that was also on there because of that scenario where now they are requiring every property to go to auction. And we had to go to a closed session to get like a not to exceed number from you.
Yeah,
And
pre-listed that.
so we'd like that to go back to where it was.
That's my next bullet point.
Sorry.
Yeah, so there, and then we made a minor addition to the County Road 550 interchange improvements. We've updated our ask. We're requesting an additional 22 million from the state to cover the funding gap of that project. And then one thing we removed the section regarding broadband high-speed internet. And so now, if there's anything else you guys would like to see added or subtracted.
So,
It's under one of the first, it's under our main priorities.
Page 2.
It's D.
oh, I see.
And that was just a minor addition at
I don't know. Put it in. Or we just want to flag it. I do want to make sure that we're thinking about it. We will talk to our legislative delegation, but if we can try to get some money on this, Plymouth Trail, changing a little bit. I don't know if we want to put it here or we're just working on it.
Yeah, I actually had Zach send me some language last week on that to get some information, so, I need to do a little bit more. I need to find out exactly how urgent that is. And
Okay.
so,
I feel like we've talked about it for a while.
we have, I think it had like a 5 to 10 year, span
Uh-huh.
by the engineering report. So I just need to find out. I mean, looking at next year, it was a main driver of a pretty big levy increase for next year. So if we can push that back to one of the years, it's not quite as hard, that we might recommend that.
Just like Central Maine, as we could talk about since I was the first.
With the 35 bonding ask this year, that with having its own heading, since it's specific to this year and it's a top priority, to have a bonding priority this year. Feel strongly about highlighting it like that, but
Well, it's technically the county's request.
Yeah.
And so we're supportive of the county's request, even though the project is their city. The reason I say that is for something like a climate, there's something else if we're trying to, ask for some money.
I don't
I
know.
don't necessarily want to go all in on the one project either. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just, it's semantic. I agree, I'm just,
Sure.
I don't know how legislative people will read into it.
We could certainly highlight it in a letter or anything, however we transmit this to our legislators. We can do it that way too.
Yeah, I don't, unless you guys feel differently, I don't feel like we need to pull them in for a work session. If you guys want to. Oh, they don't start sessions until February, so if we wanted to, we could. But
Yeah, I don't know. I think when we started doing that, maybe it was before my time. But it seemed more substantive earlier on. The last couple of years.
Our legislators.
Yeah.
Early time.
because in those days, we used to have, yeah.
We
used
had
to have-
6.
And
I remember.
in our delegation now, it just feels like we know them, so that they know our priorities, so. I agree.
And honestly, if you wait till January, I think that seems too late in there.
Yeah.
If we've got a new ask, I think that if we've done all this stuff.
Yeah.
I've complained about the tax forfeited property thing.
Excuse me, I mean, if they, I guess I'm always wondering if they want to come and talk to us.
It does kind of make a point to go up there for the state of
We
the
should
state.
have our own capital day as a.
Yeah, let's wait, because, last year, Krista had like their Lakeville Chamber Day up there, and I'd be happy to do that.
I've got two things I want to, this is not red line, so the change must have been made after our input last time, but I appreciate the wording of the wine and beer sales in grocery stores. And kind of vibrates that the last couple of years. And this, I think must have been what we ended up on last year, seemed a little more neutral to me than the earlier ones. But the other issue, I hesitate to raise, but the franchise fee on broadband concept. We ever discussed that here?
I think we have talked about it, but I didn't know, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, historically, I think we didn't think that it was possible, but I'm beginning to think that it is possible legally, and I would be supportive of it.
I have it on your retreat agenda as a potential item. Woodbury has, is doing it because they're trying, they've gotten,
I mean, they're doing it without legislative, because doesn't it, is there a legislative
there's
prohibition?
gonna be I think it's a question mark. There's not a prohibition.
Oh, so they're challenging.
There's a new court ruling from a district court, though, not a federal court, that has given some of the attorneys pause to think that maybe it's okay to charge now.
Let's do it.
So Woodbury's going to do it. There's also going to be legislation proposed this year, like the past couple of years, to actually specifically permit it. But we can bring some more information back.
I think we just charge it. Woodbury's doing it. My only problem is I wouldn't like to collect it for a year and then write a check back.
Yeah.
If it gets challenging court.
I can get more information on the Bears. We can talk about it at the retreat too. Broadband, the franchise fee on broadband. Right now, we
Charge
can,
on cable, extending it to broadband. There's- So it's like,
Broadband internet. And that word is out of date. And so does that include all high?
High-speed internet.
there's, yeah, I mean, there's basically, we're charging a right of way
an
permit.
acre.
We charge a right of way permit right now. It's a one-time expense.
Broadband is like 1.0 high speed internet.
The super highway.
Something new every day.
I was curious, there's nothing in our priorities about EMS funding. It's a league of the city's priority. I feel like that should be something from the reliability and the amount of time our fire and police are putting into that kind of work. I don't know.
Does the league, does anybody have like an opinion about like reimbursing for cities in that fight, or we're just talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on that task force as a league rep for that. It's a much bigger issue in greater Minnesota, obviously. There is a policy about EMS funding. They did throw a little bit of money at it last session. Not enough, obviously. I forget the number, but there's like a statewide cap of 100 million, or something like that. You know, Alina and our providers weren't recipients of that money, because it was mainly meant for the smaller and not greater Minnesota entities, the ones that were losing money.
I agree. I don't know the way.
We can put some draft language in there and see if you are okay with it.
Anything else?
Well, if you're okay with that, then we will flip this around and put it on your agenda for next week. So it's approved by the end of the year.
Perfect.
And I'm hearing no to inviting legislators as of now, but maybe hold off and see how things are going. Okay.
I would say the other thing to think about for planning for 26, I think we should maybe have this conversation to your point. September,
This
at
discussion.
least when it comes to if we need to ask for money or special legislation, because we need to give them plenty of time to.
It consistently say.
Okay. On to that next.
USA 250.
What do you want to do? I mean, you
Well,
brought,
I'd be
you brought
curious-
this up at the last work session.
Yeah, well, so I know that like the administration and like the bipartisan commission have like all these ideas and stuff. I just thought because it's the 60th anniversary of Pembroke and the 250th anniversary. You know, that there's could be some extra fun for the city of Lakeville to think about, like the Bell anniversary for us.
Funds. Fun.
And I
Can't
don't
say
know-
funds without fun.
Yeah.
So, I'd be curious, one, if you guys had heard from anybody at NLC on what is happening. And then, because I've said in some of the like national meetings, but it doesn't light my hair on fire. And then, if anybody in your conversation with Hannah, they talked about actually doing anything or not.
Yeah, so it did come up, with Paul Jacobus at the last meeting, and he's definitely thinking about options of things to do there. I don't know that he really landed on anything from our section.
Well, one of the things, and this could be small, like one of the items of the USA 250 is they're trying to pitch this idea of a great American road trip. We could think through a comm strategy, be like, oh, if you're actually doing this, if you're gonna go around Minnesota, what are some Lakeville, help promote the city, say, stop here, come see these things.
And maybe build around Vandenbroek and say, okay, Great American Road Trip, swing through Vandenbroek, see the music act, like, and make it tie in.
There was, and I believe there was, nationally, there was a work session on this too. And I mean, there was everything from people doing public art, you know, a 250 year, which made me think of the arts festival. They always do their art project, or what do you call it?
Community art.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
That's better. than
that's a good
project.
idea. And it-
So if it seemed like there was other areas, because if you just wait for July 4th, I mean, it's gonna be a year-long thing. I think people
Yeah.
will see things happening in other places. There was the other idea that it was a vendor, of course, but it was, they have a 250 flag exhibit thing that, they were peddling, which actually seemed really cool. It was actually the flags for each of the 250, what was the flag on
On
that
the-
year?
yeah, that's kind of cool.
It's interesting. It's a little history lesson. It was like a $9,000 thing. I feel like it's something we could potentially find somebody for.
And that's just temporary, or do they put them up permanently somewhere?
I think it's temporary. Yeah. They have a 250 flag thing and then they.
But we buy them, so in theory, could we auction them off after to like recoup the cost?
Theoretically, we can auction. I don't know. That's not a bad idea.
Or sell them, just to, sell, whatever the,
Those were full-size 3x5 flags. So it's like, I mean, it was,
I mean, I'd buy one.
There's a lot of them. Every cool.
So I like the public art idea. Years ago, Metro Equity said they'd be willing to paint that, hand wall instead of better half as a mural.
Hmm.
So if we're gonna think about public art,
so very.
just some handicaps in it. So the one facing,
Dairy Delight does.
Dairy Delight.
Oh, okay. That might be what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Dairy Delight, yeah. So the wall directly the opposite of Dairy Delight, which is the tan, nothing wall. If we had the art. To the side of that, yeah. To potentially, instead of doing like that movable statue, to do the public art, do the art festival that way. But I mean, we probably want to commission somebody to do it, like, not saying we all go and put our handprint on, like everyone.
Yeah.
Professional.
Yeah.
But, maybe mix in Panapog and USA 250 as a theme or something.
Was this the one? There was also General Motors. There's some corporations that were doing some things, and I can't remember what his pitch was though.
Isn't GM doing the Great American Road Trip thing?
They probably are. And so he was there they must have sponsored the session, so kind of did the spiel about something with an app and I mean, I have a feeling there's going to be a number of things popping up like that, but we are like,
We're at the
days away from.
Yeah.
That's what I keep noticing, there are websites for every state, and then it lists out, there's a charter for Minnesota of who's on this commission, and I have seen nothing from them.
Okay.
Supposedly they have had 4 meetings in 2025, but there's an open seat in case anyone wants to join the.
Well, is that the group that's supposed to do like, Trump is doing this like, what is it called? The American Fair or something at the White House where every state's gonna have a.
The state one is run through the Historical Society, which kind of
Oh, Dean Earl, he's a good person.
better stuff, my editorializing there, but that's.
I don't know any of these people except for Dean Earl.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
The only other thing I was thinking of in terms of just visible themes were who owns the banners downtown? Yeah.
We do.
Gotta say.
We do.
Could we do a branding of lights or banners for downtown this year?
Yeah, I want to say I talked with Tierney or Public Works, and they were already planning on maybe keeping up the veteran ones a little bit longer, I think maybe next year. But we could,
The Everyday Heroes one.
yeah, we could price out, what special edition would be.
Would anybody be willing to talk to the VFW about the 150 flag thing? Potentially working on them, maybe they would sell a flag that will.
I know the guy, we did some work with them.
Yeah, to see if they'd be open to this.
We could form a committee.
They might, it's interesting because we haven't talked to them, they might have, be thinking. the
Yeah,
same.
that's true. They might already have something.
Yeah.
Well, and I have a feeling there's gonna be kind of these travel exhibit type thing. Coming to mind right now, but feeling there's gonna be some things that in the position to seize, but
When we select fireworks vendors, we use the same one.
pretty much.
Yeah. Do they have a menu of options for what kind of music, firework combos they have?
Yeah, ask them to be more American.
yeah.
How can we get this to be more?
Okay.
At this National League Cities thing, that was, everybody was talking about the drone shows.
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about drone shows. I don't know, it's, you know, the field to lay it all out, be apart before you show.
Is it expensive? Oh, yeah, is it expensive?
I think so.
Yeah, I just figured that out. And AI just figured that out.
I think that's AI makes the drone show spectacular.
At the end of the day, I think we could do a couple of things to honor the 50th birthday of America, but I'm just a little skeptical that the state or national initiatives are going anywhere, just based on what's available. So there's going to be a lot of last minute content that gets dumped on.
Yeah,
So
it
I think-
doesn't quite seem like bicentennial, but I can remember that. Like they minting coins, quarters and stuff for that, right?
There are some coins that are being waited to be printed. I was
Well, they're getting this kind of celebration of 50. So there's,
Semi-quincentennial.
so
Gone.
there is a Great American Road Trip website.
Yeah.
I think we threw some ideas. You guys want to just have?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll talk to Joe about public art. We'll look into the special banners. And I think one of you said you might reach out to the VFW on the flag project. And then we'll continue to, or you guys, or one of us will continue to work with Panaprog as well.
You know, the historical
So
society.
just, I like the idea of the art.
Wanting to do
I
something.
like the idea of the murals. I'd like to see something up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's probably the best way to do this. Either that flag display, public art, both.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice maybe if we did the flag that quickly sign, around the Freedom Rock or something
Yeah.
like that, and plane, and that'd be a good place
That'd be
to
awesome.
do it.
Sounds like a lot, but they're only charging $36.
Yeah, but times 250.
Well, that's what I'm saying. At first, it was like 9,000, but that's
I know
a
that
lot.
doesn't seem like a lot, but they come with a pole and a little historical
Yeah.
plaque for each one.
It wasn't 50 of them, yeah.
Are they the same from 1950 on or whatever? Is it-
Well, I just one more. There's a plaque for each. What did they say?
Yeah, the one with the
How many
union,
different flags were there? 36?
36, and the one that they had displayed there had the stars, the stripes, and the Union Jack in the corner, because that was like the first one. And it was
It was a little history lesson.
It was interesting. And I think anything like that that draws somebody's attention,
Mhm.
and I would love to see something that engages kids.
Mhm.
You know, so they're gonna start asking, well, what about these flags? Have it up for a while.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay,
Semi-quincentennial.
item for future discussion. I threw this out a little bit earlier, but, we don't have to make any decisions. I thought about, could we logistically go away from having a work session night a month and splitting the topics on the first and third Monday. So, you do, in theory, let's say next month you have 6 topics, you cover 3 on the same night as a regular meeting and then 3 in the next one. Instead of meeting the first, third, and fourth, you just meet the first and third.
I like this format for a work session, so then you're saying leave the table to go to the work session every meeting.
Or the council meeting first.
Yeah.
And then go to a work session. Maybe it's not as efficient. I'm just.
Yeah,
It's just that it gets to be such a mindset difference. I
Sure.
don't know how to explain that any differently that I've switched gears. So,
If it's a future discussion item, I'd be interested in.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Any committee or city? Sure.
We have submitted what we think is our final request for $800,000 for the First Center for the Fed, so hopefully we're gonna be getting that payment.
But to be looking for. Some are getting applications.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got 40-some
Holy
applications.
smokes.
Yeah,
Wow.
and interviewed I think 8 to 10 in the first round, and then a couple of people are on. It's me, the police chief, Alyssa, HR.
Was it like people with like direct public safety management, or there's some law enforcement, like?
I'm not sure who they had for the first round, but
Okay.
4 finalists. They have it down to 4 now. We're interviewing them next week. Their background of facility managers, some current managers of current facilities, public safety facilities. So, yeah,
Okay.
How many we should that report up to?
It's gonna report to Brad.
Two, right?
and just clarification on the waste hauler thing. So we have 5 Class A, and Class A does both commercial and residential.
Okay.
So that's
So we have 7 classes.
technically.
Technically, yeah.
Yeah, first. They could if they.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. We have a second? All in favor, say aye.
I.
All right. See you guys next week.